Today, we're going to talk about a school that's been around for quite a while. It accepts everyone and anyone, no matter what your situation is, and has a zero chance of ever going out of business. But unfortunately, it just doesn't offer any refunds. Now, you may have heard of it, or perhaps you're even enrolled in it yourself without even realizing it. Unfortunately, this school offers no tangible diplomas, and it can sometimes be fairly pricey or even can break your bank account. Uh-oh. What this school does do, though, is it puts you through a series of real life situations. And if you're into blood, sweat, and tears, this is a great learning experience that you can purposefully design with the ideas we're going to be talking about today. So with me is Troy. Troy, how you doing today?
Doing great, Stephen. How are you?
Great. And we may have Thor, God of Thunder, dropping by. So if you hear some booms in the background, it's because we're going through it, just to forewarn you. So if I disappear, I'll be right back. Troy will keep talking to you.
Some shocking information coming your way.
Shocking information. Hopefully not, though. All right. So let me tell you about the School of Hard Knocks. And the School of Hard Knocks is the best way to get educated about almost anything that does not require a license, a certificate, or an official and verifiable diploma. The School of Hard Knocks offers also countless doctorates in as many possible situations. And if you can imagine those, then that's great. And if you can't, well, there's just that many. There's an infinitesimal amount of doctorates in the School of Hard Knocks. Now, the only way to survive the School of Hard Knocks is to get through it. I've done it myself countless times. I don't know how many, some a little more serious than others, but I've done quite a few. If I can do it, you can do it. But I had to be competent enough to reach a level of proficiency and eventually mastery of whatever it is that I was doing or that you're going to do or whatever life is attempting to educate you about.
Hello, McFly. Anyone home?
That's a perfect analogy, Troy. That's great. So speaking of competency, proficiency, and mastery, what do we mean by that? What's competency?
Well, so competency is that ability to demonstrate the basic tenets of what is required to complete a task or assignment. So we talked about typing as an example. You were able to type up a document.
I hope.
We didn't tell you how long it took you, or you didn't tell anybody how long it took you, or how many typos there were, or any of that kind of stuff, right? But you were able to complete the assignment. Just you got it done. Proficiency is now you're starting to excel in that skill. And it's getting to a point where you have the potential to perhaps teach others on how to achieve competency in that same skill set.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Now,
wait, you did say a key word in there. What was it?
Potential.
Potential. That doesn't mean you're going to be a good teacher or you can teach it, but you potentially can teach it. So very, very important thing to know there.
Right. It's basically once you're proficient, other people start to take notice of your ability to complete this skill because you're able to do it well. Right. And Absolutely. Then the goal should always be to attain mastery. Now, it's something you can't actually attain is mastery or perfection. Right. It's something that you get closer and closer to, but you never actually get there.
Interesting.
Because
what's the technical version of that? Well,
so in the book Drive, it's talked mastery is talked about as an asymptotic goal. It's something that it's a mathematical thing, right? You approach a limit, but you never actually get to the limit.
Interesting. Yeah. So there's always room for improvement. Even when I did my master's belt over here, I was competent, I was proficient, and technically mastery, but always learning, always can get better. I was never perfect. Only the Grandmaster is perfect. So, Grandmaster Hendricek, if you're listening, yeah, you were there, but I was still always learning and always will be learning.
Right. It's like those jazz masters that still practice every day at age 90 because they're finally starting to figure out how to play their instruments.
Yeah, they wake up and like, oh, hey, how do you do this?
Yeah.
Let me try. And they start all over.
Yeah.
Probably not. Probably not.
But certainly a symptom of how you know you're there is if you can perform a task effortlessly, you have effortless execution. It's what is also called unconscious competence. It's how most people think about driving these days, right? When you first started driving, you didn't know what you were doing. The car would stall out, and
Mhm.
you had to look everywhere 2, 3 times. And now you probably drive to work, and half the time you don't even think about it. Right? It's like, how did I get here today?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so that's called being unconsciously competent at a task. Right? You're not even thinking about it. You're just executing it, just kind of without even thinking about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Speaking of beginnings to the end where you're competent is where do you start self-education? This is a really interesting thing. So a lot of times we learn as we're children. We just absorb things like a dry sponge with a fire hose on us. We just learn. You don't even think about learning as a kid. But
Right.
as an adult, and I'm going to say 16, 18, 19, 20 years old and over, and then some, we learn very differently. And it changes every couple of years because our brains change, our rationale changes.
Mhm.
But where's a good place to start self education?
Well, we kind of gave a hint there. It starts with introspection and self-reflection, right? You think about, well, what is it that I do have skills in, right? You take an inventory.
Hmm.
What skills do I have? What skills might I need to gain in order to get to where I want to with my life or with my career? And then once you've done that, you've got the basis of being able to do an effective Google search or search for videos on YouTube, right?
Hmm.
Those those tools become your best friend in
Yeah.
terms of how to find things that are going to help you learn new skills and 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 get the how to's of things that you want to learn how to master.
It's pretty much the basics of any YouTube channel is what do you got? Can I use it? What's the value of it? So just like
Right.
all the value I have in all my videos and my channels and that you'll eventually have, but you have on your Facebook page and in your live groups. So it's pretty good. So
But
that's a good
also,
beginning.
but also, as we know, YouTube is very easy to get distracted and go down some tangent or some rabbit hole. So your search for information is only as good as the clarity that you have about your goals and objectives. So
Mm-hmm.
if your search is full of garbage or what you're trying to consume is full of garbage, then the end result is going to be garbage as well. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, that actually any research program, even in advanced education, I mean, being serious, forgetting about the School of Hard Knocks, but in the real world, on a job, in a university, in high school, wherever you're at, in seminars, even if it's a weekend seminar, it's really what you put into it. If it's just if you choose the first thing that pops up in a Google search, it may not be the best thing. It might be the right thing because the prompt was there, but it might not be the best thing, especially with using AI. I see a lot of AI, how to use videos, and now it's coming back around that maybe you should learn how to write a prompt before you actually accept the answer. I've played
Right.
around enough with AI now to know that it's garbage in, garbage out. I mean, it's
Right.
just
Using ChatGPT or any of those Bard or any of those other ones, right? The
yeah,
quality of the response that it gives you is going to be based upon the quality of the question you ask it, right?
yeah,
Because the the longer, the more constructed, formatted your prompt is, the better result you're going to get, and the more useful the information is going to be that gets returned.
yeah.
Um,
And
and
sometimes
that
that does lead to failure too, doesn't it?
it does, it does.
Yeah. So that brings us to our next question. Is learning from failure all that it's cracked up to be? Hmm.
Our two favorite words. It
It
depends,
depends. So I'm going to go with yes and no. It depends. Because yes, it depends. And no, it depends. It just
right?
depends on the failure. I mean, sometimes we fall very far and people tend to go, but they don't bounce. So unless you're a cat and you land daintily or nicely, or you have that extra 8, 9 lives there, it's okay. But part of failure is when you get knocked down, do you get back up? And it's not even
Right.
always about how fast you get back up, but it's do you get back up?
Do
You know,
you
if you
get back
fall,
up?
you can lay there and throw your temper tantrum and kick and cry, but then do you get up? And
Right.
does it take longer and longer each time that happens? So that's part of the School of Hard Knocks. But
Right.
is it really cracked up to be that?
And plus, with the kind of clientele that I'm hoping to court to my Facebook group and my coaching program, I'm dealing with people who have a history of success, and the fear of failure becomes greater once you've attained a certain pinnacle of success, right? Because the failure is falling from a greater height, right? The
Yep.
risks are greater. So the only way to get over that is to get over that, right?
Yeah, and it's not easy. There's no one way that we can tell you to do it other than just get back up. I mean, yeah, you might be broken, you might be bleeding. Maybe you got to call the squad to come get you and pick you up, take you to the hospital, fix you up, and then you get back up. There's a lot of people out there with horror stories that they've been literally blown up to pieces, put back together, no chance to get up, and they get back up. There's a couple people I see that just you won't even know. It's just amazing. And then, something happens to me and I'm like, who am I? Geez, it's pretty egotistical to say, well, I got a boo-boo and I can't move versus somebody getting their legs blown off and going and running marathons. I mean, that's just mind boggling to me. So it's cracked up for them in a good way, but we don't know their journey. So everybody's
we don't know their journey. Nobody knows what burdens each person is carrying. Everybody's had some level of success and failure in their lives. It's just how you react to that, right? You either succeed or you learn and grow. Mm-hmm. The only failure, as we said, is getting knocked down and not getting back up again.
Yep.
Or
time runs out.
Or time runs out.
That happens.
Yeah, that does happen.
Yeah, the School of Hard Knocks is not fair, by the way. It's
not.
You can't earn brownie points with the teacher.
Yeah, and it knows your foibles and will test you.
Actually, it does. It's the Kobayashi Maru of Star Trek, and there's no cheating. There's no cheating. You can't call up somebody famous, like some like Gary Vee or somebody like that.
Yeah. Can I phone a friend?
Yeah, you can phone a friend, but they're going to tell you, "What are you doing calling me? Get back up and get to work. Go back to work."
So one of the things that I learned in developing software is, we talked about fail safe, fail fast, and fail often. Mm-hmm. But when you're trying to do that with your life, you don't necessarily want to fail often.
Yeah,
but failing safe and failing fast does make sense, right? If you figure out quickly that it's like, oh, this decision that I made is a wrong decision, change course, right?
Yeah, if you spend 30, 40 years doing the same thing over and 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 over, and you could have done it in 6 months. I think it's too late to learn. And the School of Hard Knocks will give you a doctorate in that. Again, it's very expensive, and you get no diploma. And you probably will get very depressed over it. So the big thing is, forget what you know.
Right. Absolutely. That's another big stumbling block for people that, have attained some level of expertise or success in their life, is they think that I know everything about this one subject, so I know everything about everything. Well, no.
You know a little bit about a lot. That's me. I'm the jack of all trades. I used to pride myself in that. I knew just gobs and gobs of info. I've forgotten more stuff than 100 people will ever know in a lifetime at one point. And it's pre-internet, and it's all gone.
Right.
It's just
gone. It's PhD stands for piled higher and deeper, right? At some point you have to kind of empty your cup.
For all my cohorts and collective people out there. Troy said that with love.
I did, because I've worked with many PhDs. I appreciate all the PhDs that have taught me lots of stuff in my School of Hard Knocks. But yes, it's an inch deep, a mile deep and an inch wide sometimes when you're talking about very specific fields of expertise. Yeah. And sometimes you have to kind of put aside some of that knowledge and open up your brain and your passageways for new information, new ideas, new experiences, and growth, right? Yeah. You have to continue to grow, because if you're not growing, then you're busy doing something else that nobody really wants to do.
Yeah, stagnation means gaining weight, and then you got to spend time losing weight, and then you got to go through the health issues of gaining weight and all that fun stuff, plus the mental aspects of it. But
yeah, and then eventually something comes knocking on your door.
Yeah,
with the bony finger and the scythe. Yeah, you don't want that.
No, you don't want that. You don't know what you don't know. And then you mentioned unconscious incompetence before, and this is a big thing: is how do you know what you know? I ask my students this: how do you know what you know? And they go, well, because I went to school. Yeah, but that only teaches you what you now know.
Right.
Interesting part of the School of Hard Knocks and do-it-yourself education is, how do you know what you have to know? They tell you, say, hey, Troy, you're studying for the test for next weekend. If you don't pass, you don't get the job. Wow. Or you got to build a resume. How do I build a resume? Well, you watch the video that we'll leave the link in the description on how
Right.
to do that with our interview with Laura DiCarlo, the author of Resume for Dummies. And then you'll be able to know. And then you'll know. It works out pretty good.
Yeah. So the you don't know what you don't know is where that research comes in, that preparation comes in, right? You've got to assume that you're starting from scratch. Even if you think you know some information already, you have to assume that you need to prove, right? You need to test what it is that you, right? Try to put the theory into practice and see if it actually holds true.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And that
It's
tests, and I don't like tests, but tests are needed to check where you're at the moment. I mean, a year from now, you're not going to remember what you were tested on unless it's part of your daily work. But quizzes and tests, it's a good check mark in time to say, well, I do know that. And I proved I now know that. And then come the next Wednesday, you don't know any of that anymore because you forget it. But again, that's why they do midterms and finals. I don't do them in my class, but it is out there.
The tests in the School of Hard Knocks are a little bit different, though, aren't they, Steve?
Yeah. The tests are, how can I say it? Brutal.
Yeah.
They're obnoxiously brutal. And the thing is, you don't always know that you're being tested. And I think everybody's got to check themselves in this, but I'm going to go with until you're in your late 20s. I think you don't realize what's going on and you just get frustrated. And I think at your late 20s, if you've gone through enough doctorate work in the School of Hard Knocks, you start to realize, I'm being tested. Whatever power you believe in, I'm being tested. Why is this happening? And you got to look at this and go, wait a minute, is this a test? Yeah, it is.
It is
a test. Are you going to fade? Are you going to wilt? Are you going to survive? Are you going to kick and scream and get through it? Are you going to pay more money to get a tutor to help you get through it? Ooh, maybe hiring professionals, like is in resume writing, right? Somebody who's fighting to do a resume. I saw a video this morning. I didn't watch all of it, but I saw part of it. She's talking about how AI can help improve your resume. And we talked about this. The thing is, if you don't know how to write the prompts, you don't know what the prompt is to get the right answer. The thing is, the AI does not know you. It can only know what you put in at this point. Now, I'm sure it's going to get to the point where you say, hey, can you fix my resume? Done.
Right.
Who would you like me to send it to? To anybody who cares. Okay, 5,442 resumes were just emailed. It'll probably get there. It'll be pretty interesting. But the big thing is you have to be proactive in research to gain information. This is a big thing. When Troy and I do this stuff, we do our proactive research, and I'm sure most of you do this too. Again, with research, it does take experience. I took a course on how to research. It was obnoxious, but it was an eye-opener. Really deep stuff. It got really boring, but we learned how to do, I can't remember, what was it? It's the, oh my gosh, it was the and ors and the ifs and and it takes you through all the formulas of how to do it. And it's all pre-AI. I should actually see what they're doing now, but
yeah, I mean, how many virology experts did we have during the pandemic, right? Because they went on Google and they found an article that confirmed what they already believed. And it's like, yep, that's the fact.
You said the key thing, what they already believe. So in other words, when we do research, you're only looking for what you know. That's why you have to forget what you know and keep an open mind on research. And we see this, I don't want to get too deep on this because I don't want censors to, go off on us, but the bit, how to keep it generic is in the news. Okay. Newscasters only read what they see on their teleprompter. If they actually do the researchers are probably in their ear going, no, we didn't like that article. So we're going to go with the other one because that fits the narrative. Ooh, okay. Well, that's a deep rabbit hole.
Right.
And if your boss tells you, well, this is what our department stands for, and you find an article that contradicts that, even though you know it's right, what do? Forget about it, right? If you like your job, if you don't like your job, bring it in and see what happens. So.
Yeah. And so what we mentioned this earlier, right? If you know that the test is coming, that allows you to be proactive in your research, right? Because we know that experience is what happens after the test.
Yes.
And so if you research properly and you prepare for the test properly, what happens as a result is the experience that now perhaps is something tangible and valuable that you can actually put on your resume that will help you get the opportunity that you want to pursue with your next career or next job.
Yeah, that makes me think of a couple excuses I've heard over the years from students. I studied for the wrong test. They weren't proactive in their research. I think they got what's called consumed by information. They got consumed by their life of what's going on. So, how to avoid being consumed? Now, let's clarify this. Oh, I think I gave it away. How do we avoid being consumed?
Yeah, focus and clarity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked about it before in terms of like potentially falling down a rabbit hole when you're doing YouTube. It's like, oh, that video looks interesting. It's tangibly related to the thing that I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. um, one of the famous phrases that was coined by Stephen Covey is begin with the end in mind. And if you always stay focused on what it is that you're trying to achieve as the end result, your long-term goal, then that makes sure that you stay focused on the task at hand and that you are conditioning your brain for the right kind of information to get in through that filter.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'll put a link for Stephen Covey. There's a couple books that he's done that I've pushed before in some of the old videos. I'll put a new link in there and you can go check out his information. I think that might be a pretty cool thing to look at. I think Troy might be having some technical difficulty. You back?
Yeah, I had a
You're back.
phone call come in. I forgot to put do not disturb on my phone.
Oh, you didn't have a SMART goal.
I wasn't prepared for the test.
Start over. School of Hard Knocks says, hit the brakes, go back, do it again. You got consumed into the moment. But speaking of SMART goals,
the fun I had yesterday was calling me.
Yeah.
All right, we won't go there.
No, we're not. Yeah. You'll have to write Troy to ask him about that one. All right. So we need clarity and focus right now. On SMART goals. So how to avoid being consumed. Another way is you got to have SMART goals. You got to be specific on your goal. You got to make sure it's a manageable goal. It's got to be an attainable, achievable goal. It's got to be relevant. And it's got to be time bound. Relevant is a big thing with this. If you're just chasing vapor, clouds, dreams, hopes, wishes, those aren't goals. Those are the beginning or actually the end. I want a $5 million house on a lake. Okay, great. That's a kind of a specific goal, and it is relevant because you want it. I mean, that's good, but by when? Before you die? Okay, when's that? After I win the lottery ticket. Start over. Do some proactive research. Check out the numbers. The odds are you're not going to win the lottery.
You might get struck by lightning 3 times more. Higher odds of that. Than,
now it's sunny.
If you go outside of Steven's house, you might get struck.
No, it's sunny out right now.
Okay, good. Which means it's probably going to rain here in Florida here in a minute. It's 3:23. It's about that time.
It is heading south, but kind of slow. So it's let's not get consumed on that one. Let's keep moving on.
See, sometimes we can provide a negative example of what not to do. No, I'm just,
Yeah, but we want to get those diplomas. Unfortunately, in the School of Hard Knocks, like I said, there are no diplomas for graduating the School of Hard Knocks. Now, I will joke to my students coming up in a couple of weeks when we start up again that I have at least 6 to a dozen doctorates, not masters, not undergrad. I have full doctorates in the School of Hard Knocks. I've done a lot in my lifetime, and a lot of things I forget about. It's just there because, well, after it's done, it's done. You know, it kills you for a year or 2 or 5, and then you move on. You forget about it. I don't get consumed by it. I research the new thing and I keep moving on. So we may have actually just created a new way to set goals through this School of Hard Knocks too. Kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly used to tell all of my development program participants is that I made a successful career out of failure because I learned from each one.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you keep failing, and you have no successes, something's not right. And it's probably what the 6 inches between your ears is what's not right. You're not seeing it the right way. If you fail, say you send out a resume and you don't get the job, is it you? Is it the resume, or is it just the School of Hard Knocks saying this job is not for you? It's kind of that heads up, like, yeah, maybe this just isn't it. Sometimes you hear from career directors, we got to send out 500 resumes before you get one interview. Well, what does that mean on getting a job? 500 interviews? Not, it depends. See, there it is again.
Right.
It depends. It depends on the field. If you're going into a wide open field, it's good. If you're going into a very tight field, if you're going to, system engineers, I don't know how many there are, but if there's 10,000 only just in North America alone, then your odds are probably not bad at getting it, unless there's 200,000 engineers that just graduated college. Then you're in trouble. So that's kind of out of your control. But again, you got to live and learn on some of these
Yeah,
things.
and it goes back to what we were talking about in the last video in terms of punching through the target, right? So it's like, oh, I got to send out 500 resumes. I want to negotiate that. It's like, I'm only going to do 200 and see where that gets me. It's like, prepare yourself to go the extra mile.
Yep.
Right. You may not have to send 500. You may get the job offer on the very first one, but be prepared for the long haul journey that you might need to take and commit to it.
And that's not a negative. That's being what's called pragmatic. That means
Pragmatic,
being realistic. Right. Listen, I had a company called Optimal Publishing, Optimal Printing. And the Optimism was a phrase that came out of it. It's the best of the best of the best of the best. It's kind of like, I always thought Men in Black stole that from me, but it's a common thing. We can cite it back to 1981, 1981 or 82. We created that. So it goes back quite a bit. And optimal optimism is what you have to have. That's just hope. It's a hopeful promise. The biggest thing is continue your education. If you're going to do self-education, go through what we talked about. Do your research. Do your what's called your due diligence. Investigate. Don't just go in blindly and say, well, I'm just going to, fly by the seat of my pants. I used to do that too, and it wasted time. Again, as we get older, we learn that there were moments in our life or periods or long sectors of our life that we probably didn't have to go through. And unfortunately, if I could go back to when I was 20 and, kick myself in the butt a dozen times and go, dude, don't go down that road. It was fun, but it was worthless. Don't do it, because then you got to go start all over again. Right. And then you get on the right track and it's like, man, I'm here. And then when failure hits, oh, now what? Well, you got to go back and do it over again. You got to forget what you know and just keep trotting. It's just.
Yeah. And so I guess one of the things that I wanted to bring up, kind of the get ready to close it up, is things that happen in life in the School of Hard Knocks. They could be either positive or negative. Your brain makes the decision of whether something is a positive event or a negative event. Absolutely. Everything that happens is neutral. Mm-hmm. It's how you react to it is what makes it a success or a failure. And that choice is yours.
Yes. Absolutely. That's what I said. That's 6 inches between our ears. It really is a choice. Well, speaking of choice and continuing education and SMART goals, watch this video next. Troy, do the finger like this. The other finger.
Oh, wait a minute. Over here.
There we go.
There we go.
The Wayback Machine. Watch that video, because that one can save you time and energy from staying in the School of Hard Knocks for too long. Get in with your quick wins and get out and keep moving toward your success, because after all, success is the goal. We'll see you online soon.